Welcome back to HOA Clapback. I kept every timestamp and she kept lying. Karen screamed that a grocery delivery was missing and she chose me as the culprit. I care what the policy says, she shouted, waving a clipboard inches from my face while I stood frozen on my own driveway holding my phone and a spare doorbell camera mounting plate. The delivery driver had left a photo on the app showing a distinctive porch mat with a geometric zigzag pattern, and Paige Holloway, pool committee chair for Harbor Point Residential Association here in Las Vegas, Nevada, claimed the mat was mine. It was not. My mat is plain black rubber. Hers has the zigzag, but she was already threatening to add administrative fees to drown me if I did not confess and reimburse the order within 24 hours. I am a data analyst. I work from home. I have a home-based business license tied to this address, and Paige had made it clear she wanted it revoked because she believed home offices violated the community standards. She had been sending staff to photograph my porch repeatedly for weeks, hunting for violations. Now she had her excuse. She stood in my driveway at 8 in the morning, rolling file cart beside her, wearing a black puffer vest with the hood up even though it was 70 degrees, a blue baseball cap perched on top, and her light blonde layered bob spilling out the sides. She held a laminated policy sheet in one hand and a red stamp in the other, the kind you use on invoices. She slammed the stamp against the clipboard like it was a verdict. "That is process," she said. "You follow it or I escalate." I told her I did not take anyone's delivery. She cut me off. "The photo does not lie. That mat is registered to your unit." I pulled up my doorbell camera app to show her my mat. She leaned in, squinted at the screen, then said the timestamp was wrong and I could have edited it. I pointed out the app timestamps are server-side. She said I was deflecting and she had already filed a complaint with management. She turned and walked back to the cart, pulled out a manila folder with a printed timeline inside, and flipped through the pages without letting me see them. Then she said she had 3 neighbors who confirmed I was home when the delivery arrived. I asked who. She said that information was confidential. I said that was not how evidence works. She said I have a process, and you will follow it. That was her catchphrase. She said it at every meeting, every email, every confrontation. Then she told me management had reviewed the footage and determined I tampered with portal records, but her version had edits. She said I uploaded a fake screenshot to make it look like I filed my complaint first, but the metadata creation date showed I made the file after she filed hers. I had not tampered with anything. My complaint was filed 2 days earlier, but when I logged into the portal later that morning, I saw she had flooded it with uploads, dozens of duplicate forms and photos and memos, all dated the same day, burying my evidence so it looked like it was never filed. I called the management office. The receptionist said Paige was the only authorized contact for pool committee issues, and they could not discuss complaints with residents directly. I said this was not a pool issue. She said it was coded under facility theft and that fell under pool jurisdiction because the stolen item was delivered to a unit near the pool gate. That made no sense, but she would not transfer me. I went back outside. Paige was gone, but she had left a notice taped to my door. It said I had 72 hours to provide proof I did not take the delivery, or I would be assessed a $200 investigation fee, then $50 per day until resolved. It also said my porch access privileges were under review, and I might be required to use the rear entrance only. I took a photo of the notice and texted my neighbor across the cul-de-sac, a guy named Eric who films from his window because he is always working on a podcast about local government absurdity. He texted back immediately. "I saw her. I got it on camera. She was at your door for maybe 40 seconds. Want the file?" I said yes. He sent me a short clip. It showed Paige pulling up in her sedan, getting out with the rolling cart, taping the notice, then walking back to her car. But right before she got in, she opened the back door and pulled out a reusable shopping bag, the kind grocery delivery services use, and set it in the cart. The bag had a white label on the side. I zoomed in. It was blurry, but I could make out enough to see it was a medication delivery label. The stolen item was a medication delivery bag. I screenshotted the frame and sent it to Eric. He replied, "That is the smoking gun. You need to file this with management today. The management office has a walk-in cutoff in 30 minutes." I grabbed my laptop, printed the screenshot, printed my original portal complaint with the visible timestamp, printed the notice Paige left on my door, and put everything in a clear plastic folder. Then I drove to the management office on the other side of the development. The lobby was small, just 2 chairs and a counter. The receptionist was a young woman named Angela who looked exhausted. I told her I needed to file a formal rebuttal to the theft complaint. She said I had to submit it through the portal. I said the portal was compromised, and I had proof. She sighed and said she would let me speak to the property manager, but he was only available for 10 minutes. The property manager, a man in his 50s named Glenn, came out and waved me into a back office. I spread the papers on his desk. I showed him the doorbell photo with my plain black mat. I showed him Eric's clip with Paige holding the medication bag. I showed him the timeline of my complaint versus hers. Glenn looked at the screenshot of Paige with the bag, then looked at me, then looked at the screenshot again. He said this was serious. He said if Paige was falsifying complaints, that was grounds for removal from the committee. But he also said the board would need to review it, and that could take weeks. I said I did not have weeks. She was threatening daily fees starting in 72 hours. He said he could freeze the fees pending investigation, but I would still be under the porch restriction until it was resolved. I said that was unacceptable. He said it was policy. I asked if there was a log of who accessed the portal. He said yes, but it was internal only. I asked if he could check the upload timestamps on Paige's files. He hesitated, then turned to his computer and logged in. He scrolled for a minute, then said Paige uploaded 47 documents in a 6-hour window the day after my complaint. He said the metadata creation dates on most of them were from the same afternoon, meaning she made them all at once and backdated the file names. He said that was a violation of the records policy, and he would flag it for the board. I asked if he could send me a copy of the audit log. He said no, but he could include it in the investigation file. I said that was not good enough. I needed it now. He said he could not do that without board approval. I said Paige was abusing the system and I had a right to defend myself. He said he understood, but his hands were tied. I left the office and sat in my car. I had the smoking gun video of Paige with the bag. I had the doorbell proof. I had the portal flood evidence in Glenn's system. But I still did not have a way to force a fast resolution, and Paige was not going to wait. That afternoon, she cornered me at the mailbox cluster and accused me loudly so everyone hears. I was pulling my mail when she rolled up with the cart, planted herself in front of my box, and started shouting, "You think you can lie your way out of this? You stole that delivery and now you are trying to frame me." She pulled out her phone, held it 6 inches from my face on a gimbal, and started narrating. This is the accused. He is refusing to cooperate. He has tampered with evidence. He has filed false complaints. She was filming me from inches away on a gimbal and narrating her accusation like she was a crime reporter. 3 neighbors stopped to watch. One of them, an older woman named Diane, said, "Paige, that is enough." Paige ignored her and kept filming. She said she had submitted the footage to the board and I would be receiving a formal hearing notice within 48 hours. I said the hearing could review Eric's clip showing her with the bag. She froze. Then she said that video was inadmissible because Eric did not have consent to record her. I said Nevada is a one-party consent state, and he was recording from his own property. She said it did not matter because the angle was manipulated. I asked how an angle could be manipulated. She said I would find out at the hearing. She turned and left. Diane walked over and said Paige has been doing this for 2 years. She said Paige had accused another resident of stealing pool gate keys last summer, and it turned out Paige had taken them herself to make duplicate copies without board approval. She said the board never disciplined her because she threatened to quit, and they did not want to deal with finding a replacement. I asked Diane if she would be willing to give a statement. She said she would, but she did not want to be the only one. I said I would find others. She said good luck. Paige has intimidated most of the block. That evening, Paige tried to corner my ally Eric and intimidate him into silence. She went to his door with the cart, knocked, and when he answered, she told him his footage was defamatory, and if he shared it with anyone else, she would file a harassment claim. Eric recorded the conversation on his phone. She did not know. He sent me the audio file. In it, she said I can make this official with one phone call. That was her boomerang line. She said it to him the same way she said it to me the first time she threatened me in my driveway. Eric called me after she left. He said she was panicking. He said she kept repeating that the bag in the video was not the delivery bag, it was her personal shopping, and she had receipts. I asked if she showed him the receipts. He said no. I said we needed to move fast. He agreed. The next morning I went back to Glenn's office. Angela said he was in a meeting. I said I would wait. She said it might be an hour. I sat down. 40 minutes later, Glenn came out. I stood up and said I needed the portal audit log now. He said he told me he could not release it. I said Paige was threatening witnesses and obstructing the investigation. He said that was a separate issue. I said it was the same issue, and if he did not act, I would file a complaint with the state HOA ombudsman. He said that was my right. I said I would also post Eric's video on the neighborhood Facebook group. He said that might violate community guidelines. I said those guidelines did not override state law. He sighed and told me to wait. He went back into his office and came out 5 minutes later with a printed spreadsheet. He said, "This is the log. I am giving it to you as part of the investigation file. You cannot share it publicly, but you can use it in your defense." I looked at the log. It showed every upload to the portal in the past month. Paige had uploaded 47 files in one day. Every other resident had uploaded between 0 and 3. I took a photo of the log with my phone and thanked Glenn. He said I should also know that Paige filed a counter-complaint this morning claiming I was harassing her. I said that was retaliation. He said it was on the record and the board would review both complaints together. I walked out of the office and called my attorney, a guy I used for contract reviews. I told him the situation. He said it sounded like defamation and tortious interference. He said I could sue, but it would take months and cost thousands. I said I did not have months. He said my best option was to force a public confrontation where she could not control the narrative. I asked how. He said find a situation where she has to respond in front of witnesses and cannot walk away. That night, I got a text from Eric. Paige just posted in the neighborhood group that you have been banned from the pool area pending the hearing. I checked the group. She had posted a long message saying I was a safety risk and the board had voted to suspend my access. I called Glenn. He said there was no board vote. I asked if he could post a correction. He said he would send a private message to the group admin. but he could not post publicly without board approval. I posted a reply in the group thread. I said there was no board vote, Paige was lying, and I had evidence she was the one who took the delivery. I attached Eric's screenshot of her holding the bag. Within 10 minutes, the thread had 30 comments. Half were people saying they believed me. Half were people saying I was just trying to deflect. Paige replied and said the photo was doctored and I was a liar. She said she had proof I edited the timestamp. She said she would be filing a formal trespass notice with the county. I called Eric. He said we needed to escalate. I asked how. He said Paige had a pattern. Every time she got caught, she threatened to call the police or the county or the state, but she never actually did it because she knew her claims would not hold up. He said we needed to call her bluff. I asked what that meant. He said bait her into making the call in front of witnesses. The next day, I got a notice taped to my door. It said a tow truck would be arriving at noon to impound my car for unpaid fees. I had not received any fee invoices. I called Glenn. He said he did not authorize a tow. I asked who did. He said Paige had submitted a tow request to the vendor claiming I owed over $500 in accumulated violations. I said that was completely false. He said I needed to take it up with the vendor. I said the vendor was following her orders. He said he would send them a message, but they were an independent contractor and he could not force them to cancel. I called the tow company. The dispatcher said they had a signed authorization from the HOA pool committee chair, and they were required to follow it. I said the authorization was fraudulent. She said I needed to take it up with the HOA. I said I was taking it up with her. She said the driver was already en route. I grabbed my laptop and the evidence folder and went outside. The tow truck pulled up at 11:55. The driver got out, a stocky guy in his 40s with a company shirt. I walked up to him and said there was a problem. He said he had an authorization and he was taking the car. I said the authorization was fake. He said he did not care. I pulled out my phone and showed him Eric's video of Paige with the medication bag. I said the woman who signed the tow order is currently under investigation for theft and fraud. He looked at the video. He looked at the authorization. He said he needed to call his dispatcher. Paige pulled up in her sedan while he was on the phone. She got out with the cart, walked over, and said the driver had his orders. The driver told her to wait. She said, I have a process and you will follow it. The driver said he was following his company's process and he needed clarification. Paige pulled out her phone and started filming me again. She said this man is obstructing a lawful tow. She turned to the driver. You have the authorization. Do your job. The driver hung up and said his dispatcher told him to stand down until the HOA provided proof of the debt in writing. Paige said she had it. She opened the cart, pulled out a folder and handed him a stack of invoices. The driver looked through them. He said these are all dated today. Paige said they were backdated to reflect the original violation dates. The driver said that was not how invoices work. He said he was leaving. Paige stepped in front of the truck. She said if you leave, I will report you to the county for refusing a valid service order. The driver said, go ahead. He got in the truck and drove away. Paige turned to me. Her face was red. She said, you just cost me a vendor relationship. I said she cost herself. She said I would be hearing from her attorney. I said I was already talking to mine. She said she had a sealed evidence bag with proof I tampered with the portal. I said I wanted to see it. She went to the cart, pulled out a small clear bag with a USB drive inside, and held it up. She said this drive contains the original portal files before you deleted them. I said that was impossible because I never deleted anything. She said the metadata proves otherwise. I said metadata can be faked. She said not by me. I asked her to hand me the bag. She refused. I said if it was real evidence, she should have no problem showing it. She said it was sealed for chain of custody. I said chain of custody requires a witness log. She did not have one. I pulled out my phone and called Glenn. I put it on speaker. When he answered, I said I was standing in front of Paige, and she was claiming to have a sealed evidence bag with portal files. I asked if he had authorized that. He said no. I asked if the HOA had a chain of custody protocol. He said yes, and it required his signature. I asked Paige if Glenn signed the bag. She said it was signed by the board secretary. Glenn said the board secretary did not have that authority. Paige hung up on me and walked back to her car. Eric came out of his house with his phone. He had been recording from his doorway. He said he got the whole thing. He said Paige had just committed fraud on camera by claiming the bag was sealed evidence when it clearly was not. He said we should file a police report. I said I would, but I wanted one more piece first. He asked what. I said the portal audit log needed to be public. He said Glenn would never release it. I said Glenn already gave it to me. I just needed to get it in front of the board. That evening, I emailed the portal audit log to every board member I could find on the HOA website. I attached Eric's video. I attached the doorbell photo. I attached the tow authorization Paige had given the driver. I wrote a short message saying Paige had abused her position, falsified records, and attempted to defraud me. I said I was requesting an emergency board meeting and I expected a response within 24 hours. The next morning, I got a call from Glenn. He said the board president wanted to meet with me. I said when. He said today at 4 at the management office. I said I would be there. He said Paige would also be there. I said good. At 4, I walked into the management office. The board president, a retired man in his 60s named Tom, was sitting at the conference table with Glenn and 2 other board members. Paige was already there, sitting at the far end with her cart beside her. She had a manila folder open in front of her, and she was reading from her notes dramatically like she was in court. She said I had violated multiple community policies, obstructed an HOA investigation, and defamed her in a public forum. She said the board needed to take immediate action to protect the community. Tom asked me to respond. I stood up and placed my laptop on the table. I opened Eric's video and played it. I played the clip of Paige with the medication bag. I played the clip of her threatening Eric. I played the clip of the tow confrontation. Then I pulled up the portal audit log and showed the board the 47 uploads in one day. I said Paige had flooded the portal to bury my complaint. I said she had falsified records, lied to the tow company, and threatened witnesses. I said she was abusing her position, and I wanted her removed. Tom looked at Paige. He asked if she had an explanation. She said the video was taken out of context. She said the bag was her personal shopping, and I was trying to make it look like evidence. Tom asked why she uploaded 47 files in one day. She said she was catching up on backlog. Tom asked why the metadata showed they were all created the same afternoon. She said her computer clock was wrong. Tom asked why she authorized a tow without board approval. She said it was within her authority as committee chair. Tom said it was not. One of the other board members, a woman named Sandra, said she had reviewed the portal logs and the pattern was clear. She said Paige had a history of using her position to target residents she disagreed with. She said this was the 3rd complaint in 2 years. Tom asked Paige if that was true. Paige said it was retaliation from people who did not like accountability. Sandra said accountability did not include falsifying records. Tom said the board needed to vote. He said the options were suspension pending investigation or immediate removal. Sandra said removal. The third board member, a man named Keith, said suspension. Tom said he was voting removal. Paige stood up. She said, "You cannot do this. I have a process and you will follow it." Tom said the process was a board vote and the vote was happening now. He called the vote. 2 for removal, 1 for suspension. Paige was removed from the pool committee effective immediately. Paige grabbed her card and walked out. Tom said the board would issue a written no-contact directive against her, and she was banned from HOA enforcement activities. He said my fees would be refunded and the trespass notice would be voided. He said the board would also be reviewing the tow vendor contract because the company had failed to verify the authorization. I asked if the vendor would face consequences. Tom said they were terminating the contract. I said good. I walked out of the office and called Eric. I told him what happened. He said we should celebrate. I said not yet. I said I wanted the apology on the record. He asked how I was going to force that. I said Paige had one more move. She was going to try to appeal the board vote. I said when she did, I would be ready. 2 days later, Paige filed an appeal with the management company claiming the board vote was procedurally invalid. She said she was not given adequate notice and the vote violated her due process rights. Glenn called me and said the management company was requiring a second meeting to address the appeal. I said fine. He said it would be next week. I said I would be there. The second meeting was in the same conference room. Paige showed up with a different cart, this one full of binders and folders. She had printed what looked like 50 pages of documentation. She laid them out on the table and started going through them one by one. She said she had records proving I was the one who tampered with the portal. She said I had logged in under a false account and deleted her uploads. She said the keylog review proved it. I asked to see the keylog. She said it was confidential. Tom said if it was being used as evidence, it had to be disclosed. Paige hesitated. Then she said the log showed only leadership had access to the delete function. Tom said that proved my point, not hers. Sandra asked Paige if she had any evidence that did not rely on logs she controlled. Paige said the evidence bag with the USB drive was proof. Sandra asked to see the bag. Paige pulled it out of the cart. Sandra examined it. She said there was no seal, no signature, and no witness log. She said it was not valid evidence. Paige said it was sealed when she received it. Sandra asked who gave it to her. Paige said she found it. Sandra said that was not how evidence works. Tom said the appeal was denied. He said the original vote stood. He said Paige was required to issue a written apology to me within 7 days, or face a formal complaint with the state HOA board. Paige said she would not apologize for doing her job. Tom said her job did not include falsifying records or harassing residents. He said if she refused, the board would file the complaint themselves. Paige stood up. She said I have a process and you will follow it. A community volunteer named Marcus, who had been sitting in the back of the room taking notes for the meeting minutes, said we are following it. That is why you are being removed. Paige turned to him. She repeated her catchphrase. Marcus repeated it back to her, unimpressed. He said you have said that 6 times in this meeting and it does not mean what you think it means. The room went quiet. Paige grabbed her cart and left. Tom said the board would send the apology template to her by email. He said if she did not respond, they would proceed with the state complaint. I asked what the timeline was. He said 7 days. I said I would wait. A week later, I got a voicemail from Glenn. He said Paige had submitted a written apology and it had been filed with the HOA records. He said the board had also completed an internal review and found that Paige had taken items from the clubhouse storage closet and the maintenance office over the past 6 months. He said the items included cleaning supplies, tools, and at least 2 packages that had been delivered to the clubhouse by mistake. He said the medication bag I had reported was confirmed stolen, and Paige had admitted taking it because she thought it was hers. He said the board was pursuing reimbursement and considering a formal ban. I asked if the apology was public. He said it was on file but not posted. I said I wanted it posted. He said the board would discuss it. I said if they did not post it, I would post Eric's videos and the meeting recordings. He said he would bring it to the board. 2 days later, the apology was posted on the HOA website and in the neighborhood group. It was a short paragraph that said Paige regretted the misunderstanding and acknowledged that I was not involved in the theft. It did not mention her own theft. It did not mention the evidence tampering. It did not mention the tow fraud, but it was on the record and it was public. Eric posted a follow-up in the neighborhood group with links to the meeting recordings and the video clips. He said the full story was now available and residents could decide for themselves. Within an hour, the thread had over 100 comments. Most were supportive. A few said I had been too aggressive. One person said Paige had been doing this for years, and it was about time someone called her out. A week after that, I got a call from a deputy with the county sheriff's office. He said Paige had filed a harassment complaint against me. I said that was retaliation. He said he understood, but he had to follow up. I asked what the complaint said. He said Paige claimed I had been stalking her and posting defamatory content online. I said I had posted factual evidence of her misconduct. He said he reviewed the posts and he agreed they were factual. He said he was closing the complaint as unfounded. I asked if that was on the record. He said yes. I asked for the incident number. He gave it to me. I posted the incident number in the neighborhood group with a short note saying Paige's harassment complaint had been investigated and closed as unfounded. I did not add commentary. I did not need to. The thread filled with comments from people saying they had similar experiences with Paige, and they were glad someone finally stood up to her. The HOA terminated the tow vendor contract 3 weeks later. Tom sent an email to all residents saying the board had identified deficiencies in the vendor's verification process and the relationship was ending. He said a new vendor would be selected through a competitive bid process and board oversight would be increased. He did not mention Paige by name, but everyone knew. Paige stopped showing up to HOA events. Her cart disappeared from the mailbox cluster. Her car was rarely in her driveway. Rumor was she was looking to sell and move out of the development. I did not care. I had my apology. I had my fees refunded. I had my access restored. I had the vendor contract terminated. I had the no contact directive, and I had a written record that would follow her if she ever tried this again. Eric posted one final video summarizing the whole saga. He called it a case study in HOA abuse and grassroots accountability. He said the lesson was that evidence and persistence beat authority theatrics every time. He said the system was broken, but it could be made to work if you forced it into the light. He said he was glad I fought back. I said I was glad he had my back. The funny thing is, Paige claimed she never touched the item, but someone's clip shows her carrying it. That clip was Eric's. It was the first piece of real proof. It was the thing that started everything. And it was the thing she could never explain away. She tried to say it was her personal shopping. She tried to say the angle was manipulated. She tried to say the timestamp was wrong. But the clip was clean. The timestamp was server verified, and the bag had a visible medication label. She was caught. And once she was caught, everything else unraveled. The board issued a written no-contact directive against Karen, effective immediately and enforceable through county trespass law. Karen was forced to apologize on the record in front of witnesses at the second board meeting, and the apology was posted publicly. The key log review proved only leadership had access to the delete function, which destroyed her claim that I had tampered with the portal. The HOA issued a written no-contact directive against Paige. The tow threat failed on camera. The vendor refused her orders, and the HOA terminated the vendor relationship she abused. I hope you enjoyed this wild HOA mess.